In today's video, I'm going to show you how you can get more out of the February 2025 SheetLoad of Cards. I hope you'll stick around to see how it's done and see the easiest way to add texture to your die cuts. Hello crafty friends, my name's Alicia, but you can call me Crafty Al, and thank you so much for stopping by today. If this is your first time to my channel, I hope that by the end of this video, you'll be inspired to click on that subscribe button below and ring the bell for notifications. If you're already a subscriber and regular viewer, welcome back. I'm so glad that you're here again. When I debuted the February 2025 SheetLoad of Cards, I let you know that I would be back later in the month to show you how you could get more out of this SheetLoad of Cards. And that is going to be 2 more cards to be exact. Now we are going to switch up the cutting guides a little bit, and you'll need a little bit more cardstock, but this is going to be super quick and easy, and it helps you use up more of your pattern paper. One caveat is that your pattern papers that you choose will need to be non-directional. This means you can rotate them 90 degrees and they'll still look okay on a landscape card. If you haven't yet downloaded this month's free printable or saw how I made my first set including the entire process, I have the debut and process videos linked in that description box below. Also, to get even more inspiration, you'll want to check out the Creative Team playlist to see what everyone created this month. It was so inspiring, so I hope if you haven't yet hopped along, you'll do that. As I get into the process, I will tell you about the products and tools I'm using today, but as always, if I ever leave you with any questions, feel free to leave those in that comment section below, and I'll get back to you just as soon as I can. Let's get crafty! I'm going to get started by cutting my 2 pattern papers, and if you look here at the original cutting guides, there is quite a bit of pattern paper left over. The 2 pattern papers I chose for today's cards come from an old paper pad from Michaels. I chose this pink wood grain and then a floral that went with it, and you can see here that both of these papers are non-directional. You can rotate them either way. Instead of starting by cutting columns like the original, I am actually going to be cutting rows. So I'm going to do 2 rows from the top that are 4 inches tall, and that leaves at the bottom another row that is 4 inches. And if you take a look back at the sketch, the piece B's, they are 4 inches wide. So since this pattern can be rotated, all I need to do now is cut that bottom down to the 4 inches tall, and later I'll be able to get all of my piece B's from that. I'm going to bring back in those top 2 rows and cut each of these into 2 pieces that are 5 1/4 inches wide, and this is going to get me 4 piece A's. There is a little bit of a scrap left over at the end, so I just set that to the side and then cut that second row. Finally, on this piece, I'm going to take that bottom 4 inch tall row and cut it into 4 pieces that are 2 3/4 inches wide. These will then get rotated and be pattern paper piece B on those final cards. Here's a look at the scraps I have from this single piece, and if you've already used this month's SheetLoad, you'll know that this is quite a bit less. Once the floral paper was all cut, I brought in the second piece, the pink wood grain, and cut this in the same exact way. Here in a minute, I will go over the additional cardstock you'll need to make the 8 cards, but just a heads up that I won't be showing the entire process. Make sure to check out the process video, which is linked down in that description box. The original printable called for 3 pieces of cardstock cut in half to yield 6 card bases. This time you will need 4 to yield 8 card bases, but I just grabbed some white ones I already had made in my stash. For CS1, it originally called for 1 piece of cardstock. You will need that plus an additional scrap that is at least 3 inches tall and 8 1/2 inches wide. You might notice that my cardstock is missing some areas, and that is because I use my electronic cutter to cut the sentiment out. Eventually, these cardstock pieces will have the centers covered by pattern paper piece B, so this is just a great way to get more out of your cardstock. I cut each of these cardstocks down to the final size pieces, which were 4¼ inches wide by 3 inches tall. Please keep in mind that while I am giving you some dimensions, that you don't have to remember these or write them down. You can download that free printable in this month's debut video. For CS2, it originally called for a half sheet of cardstock, and if you either use a full sheet or a half sheet and some scraps, you can get all 8 of your ovals. Now keep in mind, if you are a channel member, you have access to SVG cut files that are going to help you with the oval and that angled strip on the sketch. For my ovals today, since I won't be stamping onto them a sentiment or an image, I used the white wood grain cardstock from 12x12 Cardstock Shop, and you guys, this is the easiest way to add some wood grain texture to your die cuts. Finally, for the cutting guides, it is V1 or a half sheet of vellum. Now you'll still be able to get all 8 from a half sheet, and I did go ahead and use the SVG file to cut mine, but if you check out that original process video, which is linked below, I do show you some different ways you can cut these pieces. Although I'm not showing the complete process for all of the cards, I did want to show you how I put one together. All you're going to do is layer your pieces as I show here, and for now I am keeping mine really flat by using tape runner for all of the layers. And again, for the vellum piece, so you don't see the adhesive, I just tack it down in the center, because when I go to add that oval, it's going to cover that up and help keep that a little bit flatter. Then all of those layers are going to get placed onto the front of a card, and I just try to get a nice even border all the way around. I finished putting the rest together off screen, and I did use some of those pattern paper scraps on the inside of each card. Now it's time to get the sentiments added, which you might recognize these from the holes in the cardstock earlier. I die cut these on my Silhouette, and it is a free cut file that I'm going to be sharing here in a few days during this month's SheetLoad Rewind for channel members, so make sure to keep an eye out. I added the sentiments to the center of the oval with some liquid glue, and help it to dry in place, I did put them underneath clear blocks. Off camera, I finished the cards off with some pink gems, and here are some close-up looks at the finished cards. I hope you enjoyed seeing how I got more out of the February 2025 SheetLoad of Cards. If you did, as always, a thumbs up is appreciated. Don't forget, if you want to download this month's printable, to check out the debut video listed in the description box below. Until my next one, I hope you're all having a crafty day. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch all the way to the end of the video. I hope now you'll consider clicking on one of the videos or playlists I have linked above. And if you are interested in any of the products or tools I used in today's video, I do have some links in the description box below.